Big Cap Day at Santa Anita's got 4 major stakes races for you. 3 $400,000 toppers, the Santa Anita Handicap, the Kilroe Mile, the San Felipe for the 3-year-olds, and we'll wrap things up with the Buena Vista final race on the card for the distaffers on the turf. Jeremy Plonk, Jeff Siegel here on the First Call podcast with our Sunday preview for Santa Anita's big races. Jeff, let's start with the San Felipe Stakes. Mile and a 16th. This is the main local prep race left for the Santa Anita Derby Series, with Bob Baffert winning this race seemingly every year. It goes over time. I mean, I did a stat for Countdown to the Crown. In the last 20 prep races at Santa Anita for the 3-year-old ranks, Bob Baffert has 16 wins and 4 second-place finishes in the races he's lost. And, Jeff, of the 4 of 20 that he lost, 2 of them went on to win the Kentucky Derby. Authentic and then Medina Spirit, of course, then subsequently disqualified. But Baffert is just too tough to topple when we talk about the 3-year-olds at Santa Anita, and he's got 3 of the 5 in this year's San Felipe.
And it makes you wonder why other owners or trainers, other than what Bob Baffert has, even bother to send their horses out here to California. They're not going to beat Baffert. They just never have. They never will. And you've got some nice horses in here that are just kind of, I don't know, banging their head against the wall here. But right. That's the way it is. They're here, so they'll try to run second. I guess nobody's beating Nisos. Nobody can possibly think they're going to beat Nisos if Nisos shows up with anything close to what he's done and the way he's been training, Jeremy. He looks even better, if that's possible, than he ever has. Here's a breeze the other day, and a minute and a fifth, easy as you can be. Never even, I don't know, spending 50% of his energy, if not that.
Yeah.
His leads, coasts home. You can't look any better than this. And it's not like he isn't running great either. So it's not like, oh, well, he's going to run better. No, he didn't have to. This was just eye-opening.
And when you look at Nisos, he's got the 3 victories in the afternoon by 26 combined lengths, including the 2-turn race last time out in the Bob Lewis. So you don't have the 2-turn question. You're just talking about going from a mile to a mile and a 16th. And the horses he ran against in the Bob Lewis, who were all at least 7.5 lengths behind him, you get a couple returnees. Wind Me Up, his stablemate, who was second in that race. You've got McVeigh back, a horse who was probably too close to the pace that day and floundered home a 4th beaten 12.5 lengths. And Scatify, who set the pace that day and gave way at a mile. He's got all turf sprinter on the damn side of his pedigree for Scatify. So the farther he goes, the more I think the gap gets between he and Nisos, and so an extra 16th of a mile is not going to help Scatify in this particular spot. This is a race which really comes down to Nisos in a rematch with the same 3 horses from the Lewis. The fresh face would be Imagination, his stablemate. Let's talk about him for a second, because he actually ran much better last time than expected. He was coming off a solid win going a mile 2 starts back, but he ran against May Moon last time, a horse who a lot of folks are high on, and really one of the horses you want to watch for that Preakness future wager. Not only Nisos, but May Moon. Imagination gave him a tussle in a slow-paced race, and he was able to hang in there. This race is going to have a little more tempo to it, so Imagination's going to have to probably adapt his running style. He's either going to have to run harder and farther, or he's going to have to take off the pace a little bit to be successful. But he's a pretty solid 3-year-old.
He is, and what happened in that race, though, they went very slow, finished out well. Of course, that was the race that May Moon, kind of blew the clubhouse turn, was ranked. Mm-hmm. Imagination kind of got him, and then May Moon figured out he was in a race at the 8th pole, and we rallied to beat him. But I think Imagination's a good colt. Again, I'm not really sure why he's in this race, other than to make sure that maybe it fills for Nisos. Yeah. And whether or not Imagination actually runs or not, I don't know. We'll see, because this is a colt that could go somewhere and win a decent race. I mean, he really could. Yeah. And what's the point of finishing second to Nisos? Unless Bob thinks Nisos is vulnerable, which I know he doesn't. So I don't know. He's in the race, but then Bob also has Wind Me Up in there to cut out the fractions and kind of maybe ensure that there's a decent pace for Nisos. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really need Imagination in there. So I don't know. But that's the way to look. I mean, look at a horse like McVeigh. He's a maiden, okay? Mm-hmm. First time out, he gets beat by Wind Me Up. Second time out, he gets beat by May Moon. Last time, he gets beat by Nisos.
Right.
What's the point of this? If I owned McVeigh, do you think he'd be in California? There's no way. He'd be somewhere, but not here. And unfortunately, I think that's what happens to our 3-year-old crop here in the West Coast, where the good ones just aren't here, and that allows Bob Baffert to kind of, I don't know, orchestrate the whole thing.
One thing about McVeigh, we're going to go back and watch the replay of the Lewis. He was really floundering. You're going to see him 3-4 wide around the quarter pole, and he looks like he's going to be completely out of it as he stayed on reasonably well from that point for a horse who looked like he was absolutely done and kind of got things back together. He's had a big workout since. Maybe he's a horse who can improve a little bit here and pass some horses if you're looking for an exacta play in the San Felipe. But let's go back and watch Nisos in total dominance in the Bob Lewis.
Scatify with a quarter of a mile to go has led throughout. Nisos let loose with a huge bid on the outside, though, at the 3/16. Nisos blows by the competition and turns it on. Wind me up in a battle for second with Scatify. Nisos passing the 2-turn test beautifully, geared down to stroll in by 7 lengths.
It's all Nisos in the San Felipe from Jeff and I. Let's go next to the Kilroe Mile. That'll be race number 7 on the card, back-to-back. If you're looking to gamble, and we know you are, you might not find the exacta you like in race number 6. So a daily double is really the better way to go because you got a little more field size to work with. And looking at a double in races 6 to 7, you might get more value that way than playing the exacta intra-race with Nisos. So Kilroe Mile up next in the 7th race, Jeff, grade 1, $300,000 purse here. Who might we pair up in a double going back-to-back behind Nisos?
You know how high I am with on Easter. I mentioned I thought he was as good a middle distance turf horse in North America after he won the San Gabriel. He's now won 3 in a row. 6 years of age, not overly raced. He's only had 19 starts, never been better. 2 for 2 at Santa Anita, and I mentioned he's won 3 in a row. He's got a devastating late kick. He's a closer, but man, can he turn it on? And that late kick he has can be every bit as effective at a mile as it is at a mile and an eighth. In his last race at a mile and an eighth, he had no fractions to run out in that race, but still got up and won for Phil D'Amato. And I thought maybe they might try him in the Pegasus, but Phil said, no, I'm going to leave him in California. Breeders' Cup is going to be our ultimate goal. It's in California. Right. No need to ship around. He's a gelding. We can do whatever we want with him. So I like Easter to win. He's 9 to 5. I don't know whether he'll be that high. I would like to see him being that high, and if he is. I do think Du Jour has got a chance to run really well here for Baffert, even though we haven't seen him since the Breeders' Cup Mile. Just in too tough that day. But I've never seen Du Jour work any better than he's been working. He looks like he's absolutely thriving off the layoff, and I don't know whether he's good enough to beat Easter, but Du Jour is going to run as well as he's ever run. And I think those are the two that are going to absolutely dominate this race.
Goliad will ensure a pace, right? When you have Easter, you want some pace in there. Goliad is just a runoff front runner. He did last in the Thunder Road after opening up a 12-length lead and won that race by 3. We'll see if Kimura can throttle that one down with Richard Mandela, the trainer. And Goliad's going to go flying out of there. You got to think maybe first piece also for Mark Gladden there, coming off sprint races, coming down the hill will have some speed. So the outside of this race could have a lot of speed crossing over in front of others with Goliad and first piece in the Kilroe Mile. But the late run from Easter is the one you're thinking will cash just like it did last time in the San Gabriel.
Top of the stretch, 2 lengths back, War at Sea. Easter on the outside of them. Missed the cut, has been covered up and is having a sweet trip, and he's now coming after Tio Magico as Easter lengthens stride with huge momentum in the middle of the race course. And Easter and Antonio Fresu, 3 straight stakes victories. This time it's the San Gabriel. Missed the cut was a very good second. Tio Magico 3rd, and War at Sea finished 4th.
We turn our attention next to race number 8 as successive stakes races on the card at Santa Anita rock and roll through the 8th on the card. That is the grade 1, $400,000 big cap. The Santa Anita Handicap run since the first spring that they opened at Santa Anita. The meet opened at the end of 34. The 1935 season saw the Santa Anita Handicap run in the spring, and it's been run every year since. Jeff, this isn't the field of a spectacular bid or an Ali Sheba, but this is a really competitive field when you look at John White's morning line. Basically, everybody between 2.5 and 8 to 1. Not a lot of separation between them. Shape up the 7-horse field for the big cap.
Well, you got several here coming out of the San Pasquale, which was the prep for the race. The race won by New Grange, and he's back. I actually thought that Newgate should have won that race. I didn't think he got a good ride at all. The pace situation was slow on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Newgate was coming out of a hot sprint behind Big City Light. About the track at Santa Anita where you could literally give away the race in the first furlong, which is exactly what Joel Rosario did with Newgate when he kind of didn't send him at all. He just kind of took him hold and then lost position, made an extended run against slow fractions to get to Newgrange, who was cruising on the front end, where Newgate should have been. And then wound up second. So I see where Bob goes to DeTore now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see a more aggressive ride from Frankie on Newgate than he got last time out. So if I were to take a horse out of that last race, the San Pasquale, I would go with Newgate. The question with Newgate, though, for me, is I'm just not sure whether he really is a 1.25 mile horse. I don't know whether that's something that he really wants. But I can tell you a colt that I think really does want it, and I think he is going to move himself into a whole different realm, and that is Highland Falls. There's not Curlin. 4 starts. We don't know what he's capable of doing because he's just kind of beginning his career. Curlin out of that good mare Round Pond, and even though he only won his last race by 3/4 of a length, it was a measured 3/4 of a length at Fairgrounds, just an allowance race, but his numbers are fast. He looks like will be screaming for 1.25 miles. Brad Cox sends him out here, and I really think Highland Falls is going to leave his previous form behind and run the race of his life. And I thought I could get a decent sort of price here, but John White can't fool him. He leaves it. No, I mean, he's got him at 3 to 1, and I thought 5, 6 to 1, but no, 3 to 1. And you know something? I'll take it if I can get it, because that's how good I think Highland Falls is going to run in this race. And I don't even think he has to improve that much. Toss in the 1.25 miles, which I'm absolutely convinced he'll like. And he's another horse that really has a little bit more tactical speed than maybe it looks like in the form. I watched him in his last race, and he could have been on the lead if Florent Drew wanted him to. Didn't think it was necessary. But he'll be right in the fray. He won't have a lot of ground to make up, and I think he's just going to outstay these horses. So for me, Highland Falls, son of Curlin, to win the Big Cap.
You get Highland Falls, like you mentioned, Curlin, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic, Round Pond, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Distaff. You don't get purple on purple like that with those Breeders' Cup champions that often. What a pedigree. First time stepping up into a stakes race for Godolphin and Brad Cox. So the Godolphin Blue will be well represented in the Big Cap, going the 1.25 miles with a good inside draw here, but a small field, so I don't think Post is going to make that big of a deal. It's about tactics and how the race shakes out and who goes. Last time out, it was Newgrange getting the victory, his second straight at the meet. He won the San Antonio, he won the San Pasquale, and he's back against a lot of the same horses in this particular spot. Let's go back to the San Pasquale and check out Newgrange in victory.
They passed the quarter pole and turn for home. Newgate comes after him now. These two are going to square off at the 8th pole. A good effort from Two Rivers over, who's fighting down at the rail, and then Mixto past the 8th pole. Newgrange still in front, 1.5 lengths. Newgate giving it his all, but Newgrange has plenty left in the tank, and it's back-to-back in the San Pasquale for Newgrange under Victor Espinoza. Newgate solid in defeat. Mixto was finishing nicely.
Yeah, not only 2 years in a row winning the San Pasquale, but then winning the 2 big stakes leading up to the Santa Anita Handicap. So a chance for Horse of the Meet honors for sure for Newgrange if he can sweep those 3 major handicap races. I thought the 3rd place finisher in there, Mixto, is an interesting horse who might be a little bit of a price here because he was like done, came again and galloped out really well in there. Now we're going to 1.25 miles. So as these other horses try to extend and find more, I think maybe Mixto is one to keep an eye on at a price. I don't know if he can win the race, but let's take Jeff's top pick. We'll take Highland Falls over Mixto and see if we can't upset the apple cart a little bit there in the Santa Anita Handicap. To the 10th and final race on the card Saturday at Santa Anita we go. It's the Buena Vista. This will be the final leg of the late pick 4 where we've got a $10,000 hit and split for you. So check Check out the late pick 4 on Saturday at Santa Anita, where there's a $10,000 late pick 4 hit and split. When you bet with First Bet and Express Bet, hit the late pick 4, get your pair of mutual winnings, and then you're going to share $10,000 with just other players on the platform who also hit the late pick 4. So you definitely want to dial that up. And Jeff, in the Buena Vista, we've got one in here that you've been on this filly for a little while now. Ruby Nell. She comes out of a race in the Pegasus Filly and Mare Turf. But prior to that, in the Lady Shamrock Stakes, she was rock solid. Let's let the fans check her out, Ruby Nell, and then you can tell us why you think she's going to win again.
Ruby Nell and Edwin Maldonado, they've been in charge throughout. 2-length lead coming to the quarter pole with Princess Patina in second. Anna Caro is down at the rail. Cleekish losing ground. Justique on the move now. She swings into action as they come to the furlong pole, and Ruby Nell with a 5-length lead. Justique finishing strongly into second, but Ruby Nell is not slowing down, and it's Ruby Nell, another tour de force. She is quite a filly. Ruby Nell outclasses them in the Lady of Shamrock. Justique ran well, but was second best.
You love those kind of just run them off their feet, and that's what she does when she's at her best.
I don't think she'll be in front in this race, though, because Kiss by Fire is coming out of a series of sprints, and she is very, very quick. First time around 2 turns. If Peter Urton allows her to bowl along, she's quicker than Ruby Nell. That's the good news for Kiss by Fire, but the bad news is Ruby Nell doesn't need the lead to win, even though she looks like she's more comfortable when she's allowed to bowl along. But I think with the target to run at, I think Ruby Nell is going to be looking at Kiss by Fire, who I'm not really convinced wants to run this far anyway, and then go on by. Now, in her, I liked her in the Pegasus World Cup. I thought she was going to be on the front end that day based on her Lady Shamrock race, which we just saw, a race in which she went 22 flat, 45-2, and 109-2. Then in the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf, they go 24-4, 48-3, 112 flat, and she's being strangled back full final wall of horses. Stayed on well, but I think by that time Ruby Nell had just gotten mad. I mean, she wanted to go, and she was behind horses. She didn't leave all that cleanly. I don't want to blame the rider because I don't think he wanted to rush her up after a kind of a sluggish start, which, by the way, Ruby Nell has a history of not getting out all that cleanly. So some of that trouble is self-caused. But if she doesn't have to pop the gate, but if she just comes out cleanly, I think she's going to find herself in a great spot and then take advantage of it over a course that she clearly loves. 5 starts, 4 wins in a second. So we know that she's going to like that. And I do think that she's given the trip that I think she's going to get, I think she'll be just fine. 7-2. I like Ruby Nell to win the Buena Vista.
You've got Bella Bell in there. She came back after more than a year off, missed the entire 2023 season, was victorious in the Megahertz Stakes. She's had 5 starts since coming to the U.S. from the U.K., and she's never been beaten in California by a California horse. The 2 horses who beat her were Gina Romantica coming west and McCulloch for Chad Brown running 1-2 in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup when she went to Keeneland. And then she got beat by Spenderella, who came west for Graham Motion, and when they beat her in the Del Mar Oaks. She's never been beaten by the West Coast fillies. She's good. She's got a versatile running style, and coming back second off the layoff, it'll be interesting to see. Does she bounce off of that race, or does she keep moving forward after missing all of 23?
I don't think she'll bounce. I mean, she got an easy trip on the lead there that day, 3/4 and 13. She quickened nicely through the lane and held sway. She's another one like Ruby Nell and Bella Bell that doesn't need to lead the win. So I mean, we'll see. She's good. I mean, she's 4-1. That's a square price for Bella Bell, and a fresh mare, 5 years of age, but only with 10 starts. 2 for 2 at Santa Anita, 4 out of 10 overall. Pratt rides her back. I mean, she is going to give Ruby Nell all she can handle from the furlong pole to the wire, and she could easily be this good. I mean, it's a good race. I mean, it's a grade 2, but these are among the best that we've got to offer her in this division. It'll be a very, very good race to wager on. You're going to get good, solid price